Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing a everything you need to know for year 12. As somebody who's obviously going into year 13, highly requested video. I did a poll, this came out as number 1. I did try and record it a couple of weeks ago, but then I watched it back and I was like, yeah, no. So now we're re-recording it. I tried making notes on what I'm going to say, so hopefully I don't miss anything out. If there's anything you're still wondering, like questions you have, just leave them down below and I'll try and answer them. So let's begin. Number 1 is stationery. So first up, a clear pencil case, preferably one that's big enough to fit a calculator in it if you have to have a calculator for your exams. I always make sure I have at least 2 black pens that are like your standard ballpoint pens. My favorite pen is the Kenji gel pen. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to use it in exams, so I don't take the risk. But it writes so good, it's so inky, but it does run out kind of quick. So I've been through about 2 and I started using it like in the last couple of months of school. I feel like this is very common knowledge, but I also carry on me 2 different highlighters. 1 highlighter is better than no highlighter, but 2 highlighters are better than 1. I have a pencil, a sharpener, a ruler and a rubber. The one that I do recommend over highlighters is one of these like big pens where they have all 4 annotating or making corrections and stuff like that, so it's just good to have.
I forgot to mention, because I had it on my desk whilst filming, but a whiteboard and a marker is essential. In biology you get given one at the start of the year and it's just so helpful and easy to bring around with you. I also keep a piece of tissue in my pencil case to use as a rubber.
Okay, so in terms of what you need for school, my school in particular is a 6th form college. I thought you had to bring your own book. I knew you could bring iPads, but I didn't realize that it was like you use your iPads in your fridge. You don't use your iPad in class, even though in my high school 6th form, I'm pretty sure people do. I'm unsure. I also thought the classes were going to be super chill, like, oh, you could like use your phone during lesson. But I found the teaching style and the expectations of the students and stuff to be the same as high school. It just means you have a lot of support from your teachers and they actually care about how you do in your exams. So in my school, on the first day, they provide you with the books that you need, 1 for each subject. But what you do need to bring is what people like to call a day folder. For most people, that refers to something like this, just a small like ring binder. And basically in class you'll get given booklets and sheets. You keep it in here so that you can bring it into school. If you're done with the booklet and you moved on to another booklet, then you take it out of your day folder and you put it in your big level arch file that you need for every subject, but we'll talk about that later. I think the most important thing is like figuring out what works for you. I didn't like it. Some people have like 3 of these for like each of the subjects. Some people use the clear thing that like button closed, I don't know what they're called, and they have like 3 of them. I found what works the best for me is one of these bad boys. I have noticed throughout the year like it's getting quite worn down. The threads here, it looks like an accordion. I didn't even add these labels until like halfway through the year. I mentally split it into 3. So this section here is for everything biology, here is everything chemistry, and the bottom is everything media. Then I use the very front for anything that I get given in form. I did keep a copy of my timetable in here, but I never actually looked at it because I just used the one on my phone. And I just want to note, this is what my bag would look like. It's actually my brother's from college. I just took his because like I'm not spending money on a bag. Bag would have this inside. This is my everything pouch. It's the same as my pencil case, again from WH Smith. It just makes it so convenient. Usually I keep paracetamol in here, my eye drop, I've got some pad liners, so I'll have that, and I'll have my pencil case. So like everything is just organized, there's nothing just around. And let's say I have my water bottle. The last thing I'd ever carry, if I did bring it, because I don't bring it all the time, is my iPad. That would go like that. In the bottle holder of my backpack, I always had an umbrella, and I loved keeping it in there because it's so easily accessible. Water didn't really go inside my backpack, but if it did, everything was covered. And then another thing, all the work that I kept in here was in them plastic files, so like nothing is getting ruined, nothing, like we're not taking chances around here. If you're not keeping a bottle in your bottle holder, I think you should keep an umbrella there because it's just great. And like the water just like drains, like it's just, why is nobody else doing this? I'm adding this in, but I forgot to say, you need the A4 lever arch files. You need 1 for each subject, and it has to be these big ones. These are the new ones I bought for year 13. I just used these dividers from WH Smith, and then in the back I keep my caps and synoptic. This is a prime example of why you have a day folder, because you don't want to be bringing this to school every day times by 3. But also there are people that actually do that, like, and it's usually the guys too. They're like, oh, because you never know what you're gonna need. No, you do know what you need. You're not gonna need that topic anymore. One of the most important things about year 12 is staying organized and making it a habit from day 1. In my school, all of your work is booklets. What you'll notice is that they're all in these plastic file pockets, and trust me, I swear it makes life easier. You might have seen in one of my older vlogs, I bought this from WH Smith. 200 A4 file pockets. And I've still got a lot left, but there's 2 ways I'd make sure that I used it. I think it was after one of my synoptics. I got lazy and I stopped putting plastic onto my paper. I just felt so disorganized. Like there was just loose paper everywhere and I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know why you belong. And like I said earlier, it protects all your works. And then imagine this is in your day folder. You finish with these, you're going on to your next topic. You can just take it out and you pop it straight into your arch file. Like, it makes it so convenient. I don't want to make you feel like, oh, Stephanie, like, obviously we know that, but make it very clear, because I feel like this really helped me. Once I finish with this and it goes into the arch file and I've already like looked over the work, I will never get them out again. So I quickly want to talk about the pros and cons of bringing an iPad. I have the iPad Air 3rd generation. I'm using the Logitech Combo Touch case, which has the keyboard. Quickly talking about the case, obviously I've had it for a year now. I think it really is great. It makes me use my iPad a lot more, and typing on the iPad without the keyboard is so annoying. Like, I don't like it. Something I have noticed though, and I don't know if it's because it's been a year now, sometimes the keyboard is a little bit late. Like, I'll type and then it's just a bit too slow in comparison to the text showing up on the screen. It's not always, but I have noticed it, and it's like, this wasn't cheap. So I do really love this pen holder, because without that, like, my pen, where is my pen? I don't know. In the beginning of the school year, I used to bring this literally every day. That very quickly stopped because this iPad on its own is so light, literally like a feather. With this case, it is so much heavier. Even though my backpack with everything except this, it's really light because I don't bring that much. There's like a significant weight that I can feel when I bring this, and I don't like the extra weight on my shoulder. So if I don't need my iPad, I'm not gonna bring my iPad. And I think it was halfway through the year that I finally started using the computers in the AC. The AC being, it's kind of like a mini library, bunch of computers, round tables where people just study, it's silent. Previously, I would just sit on one of the tables and use my iPad, and I actually really liked using the computers. They were good computers. So then my need for using the iPad decreased significantly. However, having an iPad is very beneficial during and just before exam periods, because the AC gets really full. Literally everywhere gets really full. Every computer in the building is taken. So if you're not fast enough, if you're not lucky enough to get on a computer, you'll not have a computer. The iPad with the keyboard, great for making flashcards. You can do your little typey. The iPad in terms of note taking, in high school it was great. Like, everybody knows I loved making my notes and good notes, super cute, super aesthetic, and it did help me. Here are some examples. So these are the notes I made in the beginning of the year, as you can see, and then I stopped because I was like, I've got things to do, this takes too long. It's too time consuming. Realistically, I'm going to turn my notes into flashcards and then literally just use the flashcards anyway. So I just cut out the middle bit. I'm going to make subject specific videos on how I revise. And now we're going to be talking about what does the work look like that you get in year 12. In chemistry, for each topic you get 2 booklets, a student question pack, and you get your student notes. The reason I want to explain this is just because Stephanie, before she entered year 12, would have loved this video, because I just wanted to know everything. In the note booklet, usually they have the part of the specification that the topic links to in the front, and then the work looks like this. So the teacher will have this like Word document open on the screen, and then it's like a fill in the box exercise where he'll just reveal it and you copy it down. And then at various points as you're working through that booklet, he'll make you do questions. And the thing that really shocked me when I got into year 12 is how organized specifically chemistry is with their lessons. Usually when you enter the lesson, they'll already have the question and the pages written on the board. This is an example of a biology booklet. In biology, you get 1 booklet per topic. There's just loads of information, more than you actually need to know. However, at the back of the booklet is a bunch of past paper questions, and then while you're working through the booklet, they'll be like, okay, now do these questions. Sometimes you do it on your own, sometimes the teacher will do it with you. And then for media, again, you get booklets. A lot of it is questions and blank spaces, which will reflect the questions on the PowerPoint, but the PowerPoint will have the answers and you have to copy it down. But the answers are really long, so you'll spend the entire lesson writing. It's just so boring. Okay, next up we're going to talk about induction day. I remember actually searching, what do I need to bring for induction day? Because I was like, do I need to bring a pen? I say bring a pen to be safe. There's only one bit where I needed to bring a pen and I literally wrote like 2 words. Basically, you go to a specific room, you meet your form teacher or your SPDL, which is what it's called. In my school, on induction day, they didn't do any icebreakers. So even to this day, like, I don't even know like half the people in my class. I don't know anybody's name. My induction day was actually really awkward because I sat next to somebody who was sat next to somebody else, and they were friends and they were just speaking, and I was like on the end, so like I had no one to speak to, and I was just like, on this day, I got a printed timetable. You'll get your MTG, which is your minimum target grade. You get 1 for all 3. And mine was an A-star, which even now I think is kind of funny because, like, how is your minimum the highest possible? Because, like, you're not giving me a lot of leeway. On this day, my SPDL made us all add her phone number to our contact. But the thing is, I don't think anybody uses the actual phone number because contact with teachers is literally only on Teams, and if they're gonna call you, they'll literally call you through Teams. So this is what my year 12 timetable looked like. As you can see, all the empty spaces, those are study periods or frees, but that's kind of the gist of it really. What I do want to say though is that year 12 is the perfect time to start or continue hobbies that you may or may not already have. A good good example of this is the gym. I started the gym on August 1st, so I had a month experience of going to the gym before going into college. I recommend everybody does something similar. If you're someone like me who's kind of nervous about the whole thing, especially if it's a gym local to your school and it's like the gym that everybody goes to, when you start a month prior, the gym's usually quiet and you won't see many people that go to your college. But after a couple of weeks of college, you'll notice an influx of people. The majority of them will be your college, the majority of them will be guys, and I know that's a big reason as to why many of my friends are nervous to go to the gym, are nervous specifically to go to my JD gym. But since I've been going there literally since the beginning, I'm just comfortable. I don't really acknowledge that like, oh, everybody's a guy. I started the gym on my own. I spend most of the time going to the gym on my own and it's perfectly fine. I actually do love going with somebody though. I think it's like really fun, but it means that I spend so much longer in the gym than if I were alone. So from September to December, I went 4 times a week. There were times you might have seen in my sixth form vlogs where I went to the gym during my freeze. I quickly stopped doing that though because you want to actually use your freeze for studying, but we'll get into that later. So whenever I finish school, I just go then. What kept me motivated, I suppose, even though it wasn't even a sake of like, oh, I need to be motivated, like I can't be bothered. I always wanted to go. Imagine my school's here and the bus station is here, the gym's here. So like on the way to the bus station is the gym. So it's like, I might as well just go to the gym. Do you know what I mean? Like it just makes sense. And then from January until present, I only go to the gym 2 times a week because my goals for my body has changed. In the beginning, it was just to like gain weight because I was incredibly skinny, but now it's I just want to develop my legs and my glutes and stuff, not really my upper body anymore because I'm like happy with where I'm at. But yeah, I just want to say that because I know people ask a lot. The other thing a lot of people in year 12 do is get a part-time job. I think it's very doable in year 12. I have friends who had multiple part-time jobs. Over the year 12 summer, I did want to get a job, but then I'm revising for my UCAT and stuff like that, and it's just not my top priority because I make money from YouTube, so it's like I don't. And the last one that's pretty talked about is driving. So you're turning 17, so you're able to get your provisional. I am very on board with doing that. I have loads of friends who are doing driving lessons, who have passed, who are currently driving to school. The only issue is that I know my school doesn't have actual parking, but I just want to say that if you're not, like, you're not behind. My friends have siblings. My sibling, who's 4 years older than me, can't drive. It's not done driving lessons. Like, you're not behind. If anything, you're just really early. It's a good thing, but it's not a bad thing if you're not. Do you know what I mean? Well, with that being said, as you may know, I am learning to drive with Adrian Flux. Adrian Flux insure thousands of drivers across the UK, and if you're learning to drive, they can insure you on your or your parents' car for as little as 65p a day. They also offer short-term learner insurance so that you only have to pay for the time that you're actually learning to drive. I'll link them down below, so be sure to check them out. And I actually passed my theory test. It's actually quite a while ago now, but yeah, I was just really happy about that. And
hi guys, I'm back from my 2-hour driving lesson and I'm gonna give you the whole rundown. My instructor's really nice and he wasn't mean in any way, but the first time I was just so overwhelmed when I got back that I just started crying. He'd like asked me to say stuff. Oh, is it clear in your windows? I'm barely going, no. Or like shake my head because I'm so concentrated that I can no longer speak at the same time. I learned turning left and emerging left. I'm so much better at steering. The first time, like I couldn't gauge how much I need to steer, but I realized like you really need to steer. The first hour actually I was okay, but then we started doing like more that I was unfamiliar with and I started sweating, and then he literally just took me onto the main road. It was really fun when it was like a long stretch of road and you were going fast and you can feel the wind. Like I was like, oh, that's quite nice. Traffic lights are my biggest op right now and it's so scary. Like I'm stressed. I'm literally laughing because I'm getting it wrong. Like it goes green, I stop. Poor lady behind me, and then I think it goes green again and I think I stall again. It's all 2 times, like off the brake. I was like, I am off the brake, the car is not moving. But yeah, 2 hours is actually so long. Like we had just hit the 1 hour mark and I was like, I kind of want to stop.
okay, so now we're going to talk about study period / freeze. What I think I'd do if I were to start year 12 again, I'd use every free as necessary. If I had work to do, I'd use the free. If I didn't have work to do, I wouldn't use the free. I think it's as simple as that really, because you doing the work now makes your life so much easier later down the road because you don't need to go back and make flashcards for the 10 topics you've not gone over. But with that being said, for the first like few months, don't be too hard on yourself. If you don't use your frees, like it's not the end of the world. You just have to make sure that if you're going to do that, that you catch up before you return back to school after like a half term and stuff like that, and that you just prepare yourself properly for each and every exam that you do. I'm going to briefly talk about homework. In biology, you get a weekly homework that is set like at the beginning of the week, and it's basically the exact same thing every every week, which is to complete all the questions in the question pack in the book that they give you. You're expected to, for each topic, condense all the information into 2 pages, and those are your condensed notes. By the end of the year, you only have however many pages of notes instead of having to go through all of this, which in theory is good, but again, like I said, I don't like making notes, so I'm actually very far behind in my condensed notes. In chemistry, you get sent a VLE quiz like literally every single lesson. My microphone died, but we're back. Usually they'd set the week's worth of VLEs on like Saturday, Sunday. To get ahead of the VLEs, I'd just do them all on the weekend. And this was really good for a little while, but then the VLEs they would set, we hadn't learnt the content yet, so I just couldn't do it. Another thing is that in biology and chemistry, they don't do it in media, but they might do it in like physics. My school makes Brainscape flashcards for all the students to use. And then a homework we get, or like just something they tell us to do throughout the year, is to do the flashcards and like learn them or whatever. The Brainscape cards that my school makes though are like 6 markers or like specific questions that have actually been asked in the past, which is why they are helpful, but the answer is like the entire mark scheme. You don't need to learn every single different way to say the same thing. So like I'm not heavily reliant on the Brainscape flashcards, but I do think they help because it's AO1 knowledge. Another thing about sixth form, which is different to high school, is that obviously you don't get any detentions. What my school does is interventions. If a teacher notices that your grades are like severely below your MTG, in my first synoptic I got all A's, and that's obviously below my MTG of an A star, but it's not like very below. There's different types. I know that there's a placement in the AC. You have to sign in and you have to like go there to study. The other one is like one-on-one with a teacher. I'm not sure what the other ones are, but I think there is more. Intervention feels like a bad thing, but obviously it's for your own benefit, and there is a choice to be put on intervention. Like if you feel it would help you if you were held accountable to have to go to the AC and study, then you can ask. And in terms of like if you're actually badly behaved, I don't know personally, pretty sure you'll just have lots of talks with your SBDL. If you're like late on homework and stuff, you'll have your teachers just like literally running after you. I think you just get like meetings and stuff. I do know somebody in my year who has gotten kicked out of year 12. It takes a lot to get kicked out, so I don't want that to scare anybody. But anyways, just be a good student and do your homework and like try hard in your exams. So I briefly mentioned before CAP, and in my school that stands for Central Assessment Point. So I wrote down each time I had a CAP. My first CAP in each subject was in the first week of October. Every time I have a CAP, it's like everything we've learned up until that point. Then I had my second one during the last week of November to the first week of December. But then mid-March I did a media CAP. It was only a small one, it didn't count, and I also never got it back. So I also did a pre-synoptic CAP in April for biology. This one again didn't count because the grade was never logged onto CEDA. Then synoptics are like your mock. We had 2 sets of synoptics, which I know a lot of schools actually don't do. So I sat my first set last week of January, and then my second set was during the second week of May. So for CAPs, they were just in class. My first biology CAP, I got an A, then I got an A star, then in my synoptic, I got an A star, then in the pre-synoptic CAP, which didn't really count, I got an A, and then in my next synoptic, I got an A star. In chemistry, in all my synoptics and all my CAPs, I got an A. Media, in all my synoptics and all my CAPs, I got an A, except my latest synoptic, the one in May, I got an A star. And what synoptics is like, most of them are sat in external buildings, so they're not in our school. So I literally have to trek through town to get to my exam. And my 2 synoptics were obviously months apart. So my first one, it was like raining, and then my second one, it was like burning hot. And it's as if you're sitting the real thing. On the table, you'd have a piece of paper with your name, your candidate number, and everything else. And then they have to look at your lanyard, which you have to put on the table to take the attendance. And another thing is that when you're doing the synoptics, you can't write your name on it because it's going to be marked anonymously. So on the little slip of paper, there's also numbers that you put instead of your name. You're taken off of timetable. You only come in when you have your exam, but I'd come in like a lot earlier, so I study in the morning. With that being said, I'm going to briefly touch on how I revise. The number one thing I use for anything is RemNote. I recently upgraded and went like pro, and it means that I can make like what they call like occlusion flashcards, like the ones on Anki, and I just love it. I think the reason I like it so much is because you can make flashcards so easily. If you want to remember some information, make it into a flashcard. That's what I gotta say. Media, I do the exact same thing. For example, my representation, we've been given like model responses for each of the case studies, and specifically for like the intro and the context, I'll copy and paste each sentence or like couple of sentences into like a flashcard where like you only see like the first 2 words and you just kind of have to like know the rest of it. Then eventually when you can remember each sentence, then you can make it so you basically have to test yourself on the whole thing. I hate essays, but if I learn the book, then like I just have pre-written essays in my head. A tip for biology is I'll make my flashcards using the information in the booklet, and then I'll do the questions that are in the back because I have to, and I'll look at the mark scheme, and then if I get it wrong, I'll usually already have a flashcard related to that question, but the reason I got it wrong is because the mark scheme is really specific. I'll just like change it. You'll notice that in the mark scheme, like I wrote 3 sentences, and then they wrote like 2 words. You'll hear a lot of people talking about practicing application and doing a lot of practice questions. There's no use knowing everything but then like still writing the right answer wrong. Chemistry, I mean, I never got an A star, so maybe I'm not like qualified to say this. I was 4 marks off an A star, guys. I think practice questions is really important. It's the same thing. I think although with chemistry I feel like the questions are very repetitive when you do past papers. There's like a finite amount of questions they can ask you about a certain topic. So I want to talk about enrichment. In like the first half of the year you pick an enrichment. I chose anatomy and pathology. We did a bunch of dissections and it was once a week on a Wednesday, either 4th or 5th period. That's why when you get your first timetable there's nothing 4th and 5th. You wouldn't be given any homework, but at the end we had to produce like a PowerPoint on a neglected tropical disease. I did the brain eating amoeba. On the day we were presenting I was on a school trip, so I never presented it, which made me kind of sad because like I thought my PowerPoint was really good. The other type of enrichments is like first aid, or it was like microbiology. I don't really remember. Second half of the year there was more options, so for people that wanted to do vet med and dentistry and stuff like that, there was MedSoc, which is Medic Society. Some people would come in who are like doctors talking about their experiences. They'd give like personal statement help, UCAT help, whatever. I do think it's good if you know what you want to do, like if you want to do medicine, that you pick enrichments available that are relevant, because it means you can speak about it in your personal statement. MedSoc's low-key so boring because I feel like they do kind of tell you stuff you already know. The next thing I want to talk about is work experience. Work experience that I got on my own, volunteering at a hospital for 6 months. My mum actually rang up the hospitals nearby asking about work experience, whatever, and then she found one, and then they were like, oh, we need to actually speak to your daughter. So then I got on the phone like, oh hi, da, da, da. They just emailed a link to their website where you apply. You could have just gone to the website and applied that way instead of having to ring. The whole thing was really fast. The only thing that slowed me down, because I think I applied November, December, but then I didn't start until like January, February. I put it off for so long because you have to do e-learning modules, and there's quite a few of them, and I was like, oh, like I don't know how long this is gonna take. When I finally got to it, I did it really fast because I just kind of like skipped through everything. Test or quiz at the end. You can kind of retake it as many times as you want, and like they don't even make you retake the whole thing. They just make you re-answer the ones you got wrong, and it's multiple choice, so like I don't know. And then the other thing is you have to do a DBS check, so that takes time. Other than that, it's really quick. If you are trying to do medicine or just like find work experience in general, that you do it preferably before January time, because January time onwards I feel like that's when everybody is trying to do it. So if you do it earlier, then there's like a higher chance of getting in. The other thing is, in my school they offered social development. I don't know how to explain it. It was kind of like enrichment but also work experience. I didn't have to do it because I had work experience. Some things you could do was volunteer at a care home or a hospice. If you wanted to do an EPQ at my school, then you'd pick it as your social development. On the last week of school, the week after that, earlier in the year, they tell you that this is work experience week. You need to find yourself work experience for that week, like the entire week or a day. Even if it was not on the week, as long as you like had it and you could prove that you were going to have it. If you're not able to source yourself work experience, then the school would intervene and try and like figure out a way to get you some. And if they still couldn't, then you'd have to come into school that week, do some like research project, workshop or something like that. Even though I already had my work experience and I didn't have to do anything, my school was offering another like medicine related opportunity. It was like 3 days in like the educational bit of the care home. They talked about primary care. That's actually where I got this water bottle from. On the last day we went into town and we had up a stall, and then we take blood pressure of the general public, telling them like, oh, it's like pretty high, you should probably go to the GP. So which is actually pretty fun. Some advice that my friends have given that I've wrote down here is, so specifically if you go to my school, because this whole video is tailored to our school, in the Faradays, the fish and chips, the chips specifically, are so disgusting. Don't eat it. And also the chicken pots, oh my days, why are they so seasoned? They're so salty, like it's disgusting. Form is where it's at. My friend said for psychology, you should solidify knowledge for research methods. It's not easy to revise because it's a lot of application and you have to really know what the question is asking. So do past paper questions regarding research methods, and that should help. The last thing I have to say is please enjoy year 12 and relax. Looking back at it now, I didn't even need to stress half as much as I stressed. Just try to remember that you're in control of your own emotions and your own thoughts, and you can choose not to think negatively and be positive, because mindset is just really important, and you just want to be kinder to yourself. Give yourself grace. I don't want anyone to be scared. Like, I wouldn't actually mind doing year 12 again, especially the first couple of months. I felt like that was the most fun. New environment, new people. That's what I had to say. I love you guys so much. Please consider subscribing, and yeah. Mwah.